I never meant to become a voyeur. But when you live across from a window that's always lit, always alive with something different, it becomes hard not to look. My apartment is quiet. Too quiet. My wife and I live in a routine so deeply etched that even silence feels rehearsed. We make coffee, go to work, come home, scroll our phones, sleep. The most unpredictable part of my day became glancing out that window across the courtyard. It started innocently. The first time I noticed them, they were dancing in the kitchen.
Just the two of them.
No music I could hear, but they laughed, twirled, bumped hips. I stood in my dark kitchen, staring across the courtyard into a life I didn't realize I missed. She was radiant, whoever she was, always moving, expressive, alive. He seemed like the type who makes everyone feel like they're the only one in the room. The kind of partner I think I used to be. I told myself it was nothing. Just neighbors. People watching. Harmless. But it became a nightly ritual. Their blinds were rarely drawn, and my eyes drifted there without thinking. I wasn't trying to spy. I wasn't hiding. But I wasn't looking away either. I started noticing details. The way they'd lean into each other when they talked. How he'd kiss her neck while cooking. How she'd laugh with her head thrown back. Sometimes they'd argue, silent but expressive. Sometimes they didn't talk at all, just sat on opposite ends of the couch. Still, it all felt real.
Raw.
Familiar in a way my own life no longer did. Meanwhile, my wife and I barely exchanged words at dinner. I'd ask how her day was, and she'd nod without looking up. We used to sit close on the couch. Now we sat at angles. She always had her laptop open, and I always had my phone. At first, I thought maybe the distance was mutual. But seeing those two across the way stirred something I hadn't felt in years, longing. Not even for someone new, just for something more. One night, I saw the woman alone, staring out her window, wine glass in hand. She looked tired. Not sad, just still. I watched her wait. Minutes passed. She looked at her phone, then back toward the door. When he finally arrived, she didn't smile. He barely looked at her, kissed her cheek like a stranger. They didn't talk. He went to the fridge, she to the couch. I watched, transfixed, expecting warmth. But something had shifted. I almost turned away until I saw him kiss someone. But it wasn't her. A different woman, younger, walked in behind him. The first woman just sat there. She saw it too. She didn't react. No rage. No tears. Just acceptance. Like she'd already lost him long before that moment. I stood there, heart pounding, unable to move. And that was when everything in me started to change. I couldn't stop thinking about it. Every part of that night replayed in my mind like a broken loop. I didn't want to keep watching, but I did. Every night. Not because I enjoyed it, but because I needed to understand it. The image of her sitting there, motionless, while he kissed someone else. How could that be their reality? It made me question my own. I started noticing things at home that had slipped by unnoticed before. The way my wife flinched slightly when I reached for her hand. How she avoided eye contact when I asked how she was. The way she always seemed preoccupied, physically present but never quite there. We shared a bed but not a life. I'd been so focused on the people in that window that I hadn't realized how far apart we'd grown. I tried talking to her. One night over dinner, I told her I missed us. She gave me a soft smile, one I didn't recognize. It felt like something she'd give a stranger trying to make small talk. "We're just tired," she said. "It's normal." But it didn't feel normal. It felt like sleepwalking. Every evening I found myself by the window.
At first it was about them. Now it was about me.
What I was feeling. What I was afraid to admit. I wasn't just watching a crumbling relationship. I was living one. And the worst part was, I wasn't even sure when the rot had started. Was it when we stopped celebrating little things? When intimacy became scheduled, if it happened at all? When we started sharing silence more than conversation? The couple across the way became a mirror. I could see her sadness, and I felt it. I watched him come and go like a visitor in his own home. I saw her sit for hours, scrolling her phone or staring at nothing. Then one night, he didn't come. She cried. Not dramatically. Just wiped her cheeks like she was used to it. It hit me in the chest. I realized how much pain can look like stillness. Then something happened I never expected. I saw my wife in that apartment. She walked in casually, like she belonged there.
My throat went dry.
I blinked, convinced I was imagining it. But it was her. No doubt. She leaned in and kissed him. The man I'd watched all this time. The man I thought was betraying someone else. My wife didn't look confused or guilty. She looked comfortable. I didn't know how long I stood there. I didn't feel rage. Just a cold, hollow stillness. I had been watching strangers destroy each other, not realizing I was part of the story. She had been disappearing piece by piece, and I hadn't noticed because I was too busy trying to escape into someone else's life. All this time, I thought I was the observer, but I was part of the frame. I didn't confront her right away. I couldn't. Every time I looked at her, my mind played back the image of her in his arms, so familiar, so sure. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to make it all stop, but I didn't. I went through the motions, work, dinner, short answers, fake smiles. She didn't notice anything different. Or maybe she did, and just didn't care. Either way, I was alone in my knowing. I started watching for patterns. I needed to be sure. I watched her movements, her phone habits, her excuses. I listened when she said she had errands, meetings, gym classes. And then I saw her again in the window across from ours, laughing, pouring wine, kissing him. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a one-time thing. This was a life she'd built around me. A truth she was living while I was being left behind. The betrayal ran deeper than the act. It was the comfort in her eyes, the ease in her movements. This wasn't chaos for her, it was normal. She had slipped into another version of herself, and I hadn't even noticed the transition. It made me question everything. When it started, how long she'd been pretending with me, whether she ever planned to end it. I began to wonder if I'd driven her to it. If my detachment, my silence, my growing distance had opened the door she eventually walked through. But I also knew this wasn't just about me. Cheating is a choice. A decision. One you make knowing it might burn everything to the ground. And she made it more than once. That counted for something. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. One evening, I sat her down. No yelling. No theatrics. Just words I'd been choking on for weeks. I told her I knew. About him. About the window. About the nights. She came home smiling like nothing happened. She went pale, then silent. Not a single excuse. Just a long, heavy sigh. Like someone who is finally being forced to exhale. She said it started months ago. She said she felt invisible. That I stopped looking at her, talking to her, making her feel anything. That with him, she felt seen. I wanted to hate her.
Part of me still did.
But another part, the one that knew the truth she spoke, couldn't deny that I had stopped showing up long before she left. Still, she didn't apologize.
Not really,
she said. It wasn't supposed to go this far. As if that made it better. As if betrayal had a cap, a line she didn't think she'd cross. I realized then we weren't just broken, we were finished. This wasn't something you fix. This was something you survive. The window had revealed more than a secret. It had shown me a truth I couldn't unsee. That love, left unattended, doesn't just die. It finds somewhere else to live. She moved out 2 weeks later. No big fight. No dramatic exit. Just boxes, silence, and a locked front door that didn't open again. I didn't ask where she went. I already knew. The window across the courtyard stayed dark for days. When the light returned, it wasn't her in the frame. It was him alone. Sometimes on the phone, sometimes pacing, mostly sitting. I didn't feel anything for him. Not hate, not envy. Just emptiness. He hadn't stolen anything from me. What I lost was already leaving long before he ever entered the picture. The nights felt heavier after she left. Not because I missed her, but because of the quiet truth she took with her. The realization that a life can unravel without a sound. I had spent so much time watching, guessing, assuming, thinking I knew something about other people's happiness. But it turns out what I was really watching was the slow decay of connection, played out in real time in two apartments. I stopped going to the window, not because I was trying to forget, but because there was nothing left to see. The story was over. There were no new characters, no final twists. Just a man in an empty apartment and another man in his own, trying to understand how everything got so far away. I deleted the photos I'd saved, cleared the notes I'd written, threw away the old routines that didn't belong anymore. My home felt unfamiliar, but it was mine again. I started doing things I hadn't done in years. Cooking without rushing. Reading. Leaving my phone in another room. The silence became less threatening. I began filling it with something real. Not distraction. Not someone else's life.
Just mine.
I wasn't looking for closure. That implies something neat, finished. This wasn't that. It was just life continuing in a new direction, with fewer illusions. One night, I walked past the window and looked out by instinct. Across the courtyard, a new couple had moved in. I saw them arranging furniture, laughing, setting up their life. I paused for a moment, watched them adjust a crooked frame on the wall. Then I turned away. I didn't need to know their story.
I didn't want to.
Because now I understood. Every window only shows part of the picture. The rest happens in quiet moments, in words unsaid, in glances that mean more than they should. I used to think I saw everything. That watching gave me control, insight, some kind of truth. But all it really gave me was distraction. I missed what was right in front of me while I stared into someone else's life. And when the curtain finally fell, it didn't just reveal her betrayal, it revealed mine. I abandoned my own relationship, even if I never stepped out the door. Now, when I pass that window, I keep walking. Not because I'm healed, but because I'm finally facing forward.